At 2:20 a.m. on October 6, 2025, deep inside a Russian air defense command center in Crimea, a single alarming message flashes across the screen. 30 ballistic missiles inbound. Panic erupts. A Russian officer's voice tears through the communications network. Activate the Tor M2 systems. Get me a firing solution with the Buk M3s. All units to battle stations now. This is the largest saturation attack they've ever encountered, and the Russian air defense forces believe they're prepared. But here's where everything unravels. These aren't missiles at all. 30 FPV drones, launched from Kherson, are mimicking the radar signatures of HIMARS rockets with devastating precision. The drone swarm divides its attack vectors, screaming toward two critical infrastructure targets, the Klincy power plant and the Sverdlov munitions factory. Russian defenders at Klincy watch their turbines locked in the crosshairs, while crews at Sverdlov stare in horror as the largest open-air TNT storage facility in the region becomes the target. Across every Russian command channel, a single thought dominates. This is the primary assault. That assumption becomes their first catastrophic mistake of the night. To their credit, the Russian response appears flawless. The Tor M2 air defense systems near Klincy, with their 10-mile engagement radius, simultaneously lock onto 4 targets each. Further out, Buk M3 missile batteries defending Sverdlov unleash a barrage of 9 Eper-37 Dauernmen surface-to-air missiles, each one tearing through the darkness at Mach 4.5. As if that weren't enough, a Krasuka-4 electronic warfare platform floods the entire 60-mile radius with GPS jamming signals. The night sky transforms into an explosive light show, a spectacular demonstration of Russian defensive capability. A senior officer's laughter echoes through the command center as he raises a glass of vodka. Kiev has nothing left. Klincy is secure. Sverdlov is protected. 30 for 30. Perfect interception. The Russians have just flawlessly neutralized what they believe is Ukraine's massive missile strike. But 300 meters away, inside a Ukrainian command bunker, a military intelligence operator watches his screen, and a slow, calculated smile spreads across his face. The fish are on the hook. Because on the main tactical display, a second wave, far larger and deadlier, has just illuminated the map. 60 AQ-400 Scythe drones, flying beneath the chaos of the decoy attack, are racing toward their actual destination, the JSC Marine Oil Terminal in Feodosia. Why bypass a power plant and munitions factory for what seems like ordinary fuel storage? Because the JSC Marine Oil Terminal in Feodosia isn't just fuel, storage. It's the lifeline of the entire Black Sea, Fleet's war machine. 22. Massive storage tanks containing 500 million gallons of fuel, that's 40% of the fuel supply keeping Russian warships, operational and fighter jets airborne. Destroying this facility is equivalent to ripping out the fuel pump from Russia's entire southern military district. The consequences extend far beyond the battlefield. Intelligence estimates suggest that taking this depot offline would send Russian gas prices into economic chaos. It's an economic devastation strike disguised as a military operation. Naturally, a strategic asset this critical is defended like an impregnable fortress. Multiple layers of Tor M2 systems, Buk M3 batteries, and the formidable Krasuka-4 electronic warfare platform, a fortress specifically engineered to intercept missiles and aircraft. So, what about those 30 FPV drones over Klincy and Sverdlov? The mission order was transmitted at 2:15 a.m., and their objective was elegantly simple. They weren't designed to strike anything at all. By spoofing HIMARS missile signatures, Ukrainian military intelligence forced Russia to activate every air defense radar in the region and expend a fortune doing it. Let's examine the economics. Ukraine invested $30,000 in those decoy drones. In response, Russia, according to open-source intelligence analysis, fired at least $3 million worth of surface-to-air missiles to eliminate them. That's a 100-to-1 cost advantage, a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. But you're not just purchasing destroyed missiles with that investment. You're acquiring intelligence, creating chaos, and, most critically, you're opening a wide vulnerability in enemy defenses. Here's the brilliant part. Every time a Tor M2 system activated its radar, it broadcast its precise location and operating frequency directly to Ukrainian intelligence. Every Buk M3 that fired represented one less missile available to defend the target that actually mattered. And while the Krasuka-4 electronic warfare system was occupied jamming a phantom attack, the entire Russian command network was drowning in useless data streams. It was a perfectly engineered blind spot. The chaos at Klintsy and Sverdlov wasn't merely a distraction, it was the skeleton key that unlocked the back door to Crimea. Russia had voluntarily blinded, deafened, and partially disarmed itself, all to neutralize a $30,000 ghost. At 2:05 a.m., while Russian forces were chasing phantoms, the real killers were already in motion. 60 AQ-400 Scythe drones surged across the Black Sea, each carrying a 440-pound warhead. They maintained an altitude of just 20 feet above the water, exploiting the 40-degree fog as perfect natural concealment against visual and thermal detection systems. This is where the operational genius becomes apparent. That massive Krasuka-4 jamming field Russia had activated. Completely ineffective. The Scythe drones navigate using inertial navigation systems. They don't require GPS signals to determine their position. They calculate location through every turn and velocity change using fundamental physics principles. You can jam satellite signals, but you cannot jam the laws of physics. Russia's entire air defense network was focused in the wrong direction, celebrating a victory that never existed. As the first Scythe drones reached the Crimean coastline, a single word was transmitted from the Kiev command bunker: showtime. At 2:08 a.m. in Feodosia, an operator's display suddenly activates. The local Tor M2 system has detected the Scythe swarm. Finally, what appears to be a genuine threat. Or so he believes. The problem is that 40-degree fog isn't just cold. It's dense with atmospheric moisture, and it's creating havoc with Doppler radar systems. The targeting system struggles to achieve a clean lock, misidentifying the low-altitude, slow-moving drones as ground clutter or atmospheric interference. According to Center for Strategic Studies analysis, it's like trying to locate a specific object in complete darkness. You know something's there, but you cannot establish a fix on it. While the Russian operator battles his malfunctioning equipment, the Scythe drones hug the terrain at just 20 feet, utilizing onboard AI SLAM algorithms to navigate the coastline with absolute precision. The result? The swarm penetrates directly through the Tor M2's engagement envelope without a single interceptor missile being launched. The first defensive layer has been completely bypassed. At 2:10 a.m., further inland, a Buk M3 crew finally achieves a solid targeting lock. A 9M317M missile screams off the launch rails at Mach 4.5, a multi-million-dollar solution to what should be a straightforward interception. Except the Scythe drones refuse to cooperate. They drop to 30 feet, weaving through the coastal terrain like competitive slalom skiers. That sophisticated interceptor missile, designed to destroy fighter aircraft at 50,000 feet, suddenly finds itself confused, attempting to track a target barely above wave level. The missile veers off course with the reliability of a Kremlin promise and harmlessly detonates over the Black Sea. Here's the devastating detail. That was their final ready missile. The decoy swarm had depleted their ammunition reserves. At 2:12 a.m., the Russians deploy their trump card, the Krasuka-4 electronic warfare system. A 60-mile radius of electromagnetic disruption erupts over Crimea, engineered to scramble every GPS signal into meaningless static. For a brief moment, the video feeds back in the Kiev command bunker flicker and fill with interference. The data link is being jammed. But the Scythe drones don't even hesitate. The instant their satellite connection terminates, their onboard inertial navigation systems activate. They stop relying on GPS and begin flying purely through physics calculations, feeling their trajectory to the target. Russia is now broadcasting electronic noise into a void. According to military analysts, it's like attempting to win a singing competition when your microphone isn't even connected to the sound system. At 2:15 a.m., the Scythe drones are now so close that ground troops can hear the low, menacing hum of their engines cutting through the fog. Panic consumes the defensive positions. The sky erupts with tracer fire as Russian soldiers unleash everything they have: AK-47 assault rifles and DHK heavy machine guns spitting 12.7mm rounds into the darkness. It's a completely futile gesture. As one military analyst described it, attempting to hit a 124-mile-per-hour drone in dense fog with small arms fire is like trying to shoot a hummingbird with a slingshot. The Scythe drones, flying a tight zigzag pattern just 20 feet off the ground, don't even need to take evasive action. The hail of gunfire accomplishes nothing except confirming one reality: the Russians are officially terrified. At 2:18 a.m., as the Scythe swarm approaches the harbor, one final steel guardian awakens, a Grachov-class patrol vessel, the last line of defense for Feodosia. And it possesses a lethal capability: a 30mm close-in weapon system designed to create an impenetrable wall of shrapnel, firing at 5,000 rounds per minute. In theory, it's the perfect counter-drone weapon. The barrels begin spinning up, producing that distinctive buzzing sound of imminent destruction. It appeared to be game over for the Scythe swarm. But there's a critical flaw: that CIWS is almost entirely automated, depending on a compact, extremely high-frequency radar to acquire targets with millimeter-level precision. And that radar system has a fundamental vulnerability: it cannot function effectively in moisture. The dense 40-degree fog isn't just concealing the drones. The microscopic water particles suspended in the air are scattering the radar beam, generating a screen of pure white noise. The targeting system cannot differentiate between a drone and atmospheric vapor. It's like searching for a black cat in a pitch-dark room with a flashlight. Only someone is filling the room with smoke. All you see is the beam of your own light, not the target. The CIWS fires wildly, its bright tracers tearing through the fog and carving meaningless patterns across the surface of the Black Sea. Meanwhile, the Scythe drones, guided by their internal inertial navigation systems, glide straight through that wall of steel and electromagnetic noise completely unharmed. At 2:21 a.m. in the Crimean Command Center, a desperate gambit unfolds. They scramble their ace in the hole. A MiG-31 Foxhound roars off a nearby runway. This isn't just a fighter jet. It's a legendary interceptor, a machine engineered to hunt strategic bombers at the edge of space, armed with long-range R-33 air-to-air missiles. Surely it can handle a few slow-moving drones. The pilot receives his orders, banks hard, and descends, his powerful Zaslon M radar beginning to sweep the sea below. He was their final hope. The problem? The Zaslon M is a masterpiece of look-down, shoot-down technology, but it was designed for a very specific mission: to filter out slow-moving signals from ground terrain, what radar engineers call clutter, in order to detect faster-moving targets like cruise missiles or enemy aircraft. The Scythe drones, flying at just 20 feet and 124 miles per hour, are too slow, too low. To the MiG's sophisticated computer processing system, they aren't threats. They register as sea clutter. They get filtered out by the radar's own software like spam email. After several frustrating passes, the pilot's radar display remains perfectly clean. He curses into his communication system, reports a false alarm, and banks back to base, leaving the airspace completely vulnerable. Russia's trump card wasn't defeated by superior technology. It was defeated by fundamental physics. At 2:24 a.m., the Scythe drones are now just a few hundred yards from their target. The final defensive layer isn't a weapon system or interceptor missile. It's the brain of the entire operation, the Russian command and control network. And that brain is experiencing a complete system failure. For the previous 20 minutes, its servers have been struggling to track, prioritize, and process data from 251 separate drone threats across the entire front line. The decoy swarm wasn't just bait, it was a distributed denial-of-service attack, a DDoS assault on both the computer systems and the human operators. It's like attempting to conduct one critical phone conversation while 250 other people are screaming random numbers in your ear. Eventually, your cognitive processing just shuts down. That's precisely what happened. The displays in the Crimean command center froze. Mouse cursors stopped responding. Error messages began cascading across screens. While Russian officers stared helplessly at their crashed systems, the Scythe swarm calmly flew to their final attack positions. No more evasion was necessary, they simply flew on. Their heads-up displays showing green targeting boxes locked firmly onto oil storage tank number 23. At 2:25 a.m., every targeting pulse was captured, transmitted to a Starlink satellite constellation, and relayed directly to the 60 Scythe drones. While Russian crews frantically attempted to reload empty missile launchers and reboot systems that had been disconnected from power sources, the 60 heads-up displays of the Scythe swarm all flash the same beautiful word: locked. And so begins the final approach. This is a pure 124-mile-per-hour sprint through 40-degree fog. Their AI SLAM systems continue making micro-adjustments, hugging the coastline with absolute precision. But the battle is already over. The Tor system is blind. The book batteries are empty. The MiG is gone. The Grachov-class vessel is firing at phantoms. There's no tension remaining, only the cold, calculated satisfaction of witnessing a flawless operation come together. Back in the Crimean command center, the displays finally restore functionality just in time to show 60 new, unstoppable targets mere feet from the oil terminal. Total pandemonium erupts. You can hear soldiers firing AK rifles in the background like a scene from a low-budget action film. An officer is screaming for a status report that will never arrive. The system had crashed, and it had taken their last chance of survival with it. The first Scythe drone impacts storage tank number 23, and the 440-pound warhead doesn't simply explode. It performs a physics demonstration called the Monroe effect. The detonation unleashes a molten jet traveling at 7,000 feet per second, shredding the tank's steel structure like tissue paper. It doesn't punch through the steel wall. It liquefies it. The resulting fireball erupts at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, climbing 100 feet into the night sky, a new man-made sun visible for 18 miles. And almost simultaneously, as a final punctuation mark, the power grid at Clincy goes completely dark, and the Sverdlov munitions factory finally provides the secondary fireworks display it had promised all along. So, when the smoke clears, what's the final tactical assessment? It's a complete knockout across 4 different operational levels. First, the direct military impact. 21 oil storage tanks are destroyed. 500 million gallons of fuel are either burning or leaking into the Black Sea. The Black Sea Fleet, according to Euromaidan press analysis, is grounded without fuel, reduced to the world's most expensive paperweights. Add to that a 200-megawatt blackout at Clincy and the loss of 100,000 tons of TNT at Sverdlov, and you have a tactical masterpiece. Second, the systemic and logistical consequences. This isn't about one military base. This single strike, according to military analysts, just took 38% of Russia's regional refining capacity offline. The effect is immediate. Gas prices in occupied territories are projected to reach $5 per gallon. That blackout at Clincy shut down the railway hub that was supplying the entire Kerch front. As the Institute for the Study of War notes, Russia's ability to wage war just became significantly harder and exponentially more expensive. Third, the psychological and information warfare dimension. While the Kremlin scrambles to label this a minor technical incident, Telegram channels are already flooded with videos of the Feodosia sunrise. The myth of Russia's invincible Crimean air defense is now a smoking crater. For the first time, Russian citizens are witnessing the direct connection between the war and their own fuel shortages and power cuts. The narrative has been shattered. And finally, the long-term strategic transformation. This is the real checkmate. According to military analysis, Moscow now faces an impossible strategic dilemma. Do they withdraw their precious Tor and Buk air defense systems from the front lines to defend strategic homeland assets? Or do they leave critical infrastructure vulnerable? Every air defense system they pull back creates a new gaping hole in their defensive umbrella over the Donbass, a vulnerability that F-16 fighter jets and ATACMS missiles are waiting to exploit. Ukraine just forced Russia to weaken its own frontline defenses. So, what's the next target on Ukraine's operational list? Another fuel depot? Strategic leadership infrastructure? The Kremlin itself? Drop your best strategic analysis in the comments.